Hi, friends. And welcome to a spooky recommendation video just in time for Halloween. Yay! So here are some of my spooky book racks for the best time of year, which is almost over, and I'm so sad. It's seriously gone by so fast. It's gone by in a blink of an eye for me personally. But yeah, I have some recommendations I would like to share in case you're looking for, you know, something last minute to really scratch that Halloween vibe / spooky horror vibe. So starting off with The Prettiest Girl in the Grave by Christopher Triana. As you can tell from the cover, yes, the fall vibes are there. This takes place in a graveyard where these girls decide to play a game called The Prettiest Girl in the Grave. And what ensues is so gross, first of all, but also scary. I read this for the Reaper Book Club last year. I believe it was for last October or September. And yeah, it just scratched those vibes for me. Also, it kind of has like a deeper meaning, which we got to in the live chat, which happens at my book club. I'm like, you know, I didn't really think of it. And then I'm like, oh, this had some deeper meaning, especially with everybody weighing in on it. So this is definitely a great pick for October or even like those fall vibes. Of course, I have to talk about The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is one of my all-time favorite books. Like, this is the book that is just like a classic to me. It is a classic book, but I've reread it I think twice, and I might reread it a third time this year, and every time I reread it, or the one time I reread it, I got so much more out of it. Yeah, I think this book speaks to people on different levels, and you take away what you kind of need at that time from it. Like, it is just that deep, and it is a haunted house story. Yeah, I absolutely love this book. It is we follow Eleanor, who is going for like a psychic study in Hill House, which is this notoriously like haunted house. And yeah, it's just kind of a classic ghost story, but there's so many different levels in it. Like, the last time I read it, I definitely got the grief level from it, which, you know, The Haunting of Hill House show is about that. And that's something I never thought of before with this book, was Eleanor's deep grief that she had, not just about, you know, she just lost her mother. It's almost like for herself, like, in a way, like her life and where it was at that time, like when she's going to Hill House. Oh, it's just so beautiful and fantastic. And also, I do see Eleanor as a bit of a villain. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So if you haven't read it yet, the audio is usually on Libby or Hoopla, and it's usually available, and it's really short. I think it's 200 pages, so definitely check it out this season. And you guys know I have to talk about one of my other all-time favorite books, The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. I love this book. I love the movie, which he directed, the first one. Yeah, I can't get over that. But I absolutely love this book. It's just so good. It's so good. It's about what would you do for pleasure, I guess. And you know, when you accidentally, you know, summon demons to get that pleasure, I guess. But yeah, this is a wild, wild ride. I would categorize this definitely as a cosmic horror, which I know people have like a tough time with, but this is just like fun. And the engineer in this, so it's not Pinhead necessarily, it's like the engineer. She enters the story in a very particular way that I really wish they did in the movie, and I get why they did it, but I was just like, my jaw is like on the floor when I read this book, because of that entrance. I'm like, girl, yes. And I have to recommend a witch book. The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson has all of those Salem witch trial vibes. This is like more of a fantasy witch book, I feel like. It has some fantasy moments, but it also has like a lot of horror moments. It has great imagery in it. And it's so good. It hits that spot. It hits that fall vibe, witch hunting vibe. No, that's not a vibe. That's not a vibe we're going for. But definitely the witchy vibes and small town vibes, and it has like that isolation too in it, because I mean, like, that town, Salem, was isolated, but this takes place in a different town. It's like fictionalized, but it's all there. It's all hinted at. But yeah, this one is great to check out if you haven't for fall. So this book absolutely terrified me. This book has one of the best villains I have ever read. She is terrifying, and she's like a little girl. She is like 20 years old maybe, and petite, but absolutely terrifying little psychic girl. And it's not Carrie, it is Katie. This is Katie by Michael McDowell. This is a revenge story through and through. It takes place in like Victorian times, over a long period of time, because it is a revenge tale, but you're following a woman who her life was ruined by this family of psychics. One girl is a psychic, and yeah, the other are not. They're more con artists. And this is her revenge story with Katie, and I have goosebumps thinking about this story. It is so good. It is wild what happens in this. Michael McDowell has some of the best kill scenes I have ever read in my life, to where they're embedded in my brain. Speaking of which, there is some animal cruelty in this, but it's for a reason. It's not just out there to be out there, but it absolutely terrified me. I was so scared of Katie in this. And yeah, this is perfect for a like Halloween type of read, where you're just reading about a really terrible person and you're like, yes, you want the main character to get her revenge. So I actually haven't talked about this book in a minute, but I think it's perfect for spooky season, and that is Ghost Eaters by Clive Chapman. I loved this book when it first came out a couple years ago. I am very biased, I realized, towards this author, because he writes just in Virginia. All his stories take place in Virginia. This one in particular takes place in Richmond, and like in the suburbs outside of Richmond, but the opening scene is from Hollywood Cemetery, which I was actually at in my last vlog, and I talked about this scene, and I was like, okay, I have to recommend this book for spooky season. This book has a lot of layers in it. It deals with grief, drug use, and addiction, which all intertwine together in a very creepy, almost throwback to old school spiritualism way, and it's done in a very unique way. It is a wild ride, and yeah, I would tell you the premise, but I feel like the beginning of this is just so good, and like how they get there is just kind of nice to go in blind. But yeah, I absolutely love this book, and it's perfect for spooky season. Look at the ghost on the cover. Woo! So very quickly, I'm just going to talk about two novellas that I feel like hit like that spot for spooky season. Goddess of Filth. This is a little novella about teenage girls who are graduating, and that they end up playing a game or doing a seance. It's a seance. Seance is like a game, right? And they end up summoning something that they were not expecting, and it's just wild. It's so gross. I was not expecting this book to be so disgusting, but so good. And then, of course, Crossroads, if you're looking for a good grief horror by Laurel Hightower. I absolutely love this book. I also really liked The Day of the Door as well. This is a newer release by Hightower, and it's just fantastic. This actually is kind of set up like a paranormal activity show, but with like a lot of family drama in it. And oh gosh, it's very deep, and a true sociopath is the mother in this scenario. And I think that was the scariest part for me. I mean, there's a lot of ghost. If you've read Hightower's books before, she does atmosphere really well with ghost, like hearing, you know, the knocks, or, you know, something's not quite right, or it's uncanny what's happening, or what our main character is experiencing. And yeah, hits it home with both of these. Both of these terrified me on very different levels. And then ending with 2 short story collections, Autumn Crow by Cameron Chaney and October Society by Christopher Robertson. I absolutely love both of these. I think they're just so fun and atmospheric, and just kind of sad too. Like, both of these, I don't know, like, you know, when something tugs on your heartstrings and it makes you feel alive a little, where you're like, oh, I'm not this dead corpse walking around going to work, I am actually alive. These 2 books hit home for me with this, and yeah, fantastic short story collections. And I'm not a short story girly either, so yes, absolutely check these out this season if you haven't already. So there you have it. Those are some spooky book recommendations for the best time of the year. Yes. And let me know some of your spooky book recommendations down below, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Bye!